You know, there's something most people don't realize when they start working through their fear of success. It's not really about money, not about opportunities, not even about taking action. It's about losing yourself. And this is where things get really interesting, because on the surface, you want to grow. You want more. You want a different life. But deep inside, there can be this quiet feeling. If I become successful, I won't be me anymore. And it doesn't always sound that clear. Sometimes it's just discomfort. Sometimes resistance. Sometimes that strange feeling like something's off. But if you go deeper, that's what's there. The fear of losing your identity, because you're used to being a certain version of yourself. Your привычные мысли, your reactions, your current level of life. Even if you don't like it, it's familiar. And your mind always holds on to what's familiar, even if it's limiting you. Now imagine this. You start changing, thinking differently, acting differently, choosing differently. And at some point, something inside you goes, "This isn't me." And do you know what happens next? A lot of people go backwards right there. Not because they can't move forward, but because it feels unfamiliar. It's like you've stepped out of your old identity, but you haven't fully stepped into the new one yet. And that space is very uncomfortable, because the old version of you is already breaking. But the new one isn't stable yet. And if you don't understand what's happening, it's very easy to quit and go back to what feels known, even if there's less money, less freedom, less growth, just because, at least I know who I am there. And here's the key shift. You're not losing yourself. You're expanding yourself, but your brain reads it as a threat, because for it, identity equals stability. So any change feels like danger. That's why it triggers protection. Doubt. Fear pulling back, wanting to return to the old version. And if you don't see this clearly, you think something is wrong. But actually, everything is going right. You're just moving beyond your old identity. So now, let's talk about what you actually do with this first. Stop trying to destroy your old self. This is a huge mistake. People think they have to cut off the past, become a completely new person. Leave everything behind. And that creates internal conflict, because a part of you resists. And that's normal. Your old self is not your enemy. It's your foundation. So you don't remove it. You expand it. You tell yourself, I can be more than I used to be. Not instead of, but on top of. And that alone removes a lot of tension. Second, you slowly get used to your new identity. Not all at once, not through pressure, but gradually, through small shifts, through small actions, through new reactions. For example, you used to avoid responsibility. Now you take a little more. You used to doubt yourself. Now you allow yourself to act a bit more confidently. And those little changes matter, because your mind accepts gradual change. Third, this is the most important part. You give yourself permission to change. Because deep inside, there's often a hidden rule. I'm not allowed to be different. I'm not allowed to grow too much. I'm not allowed to become more. And as long as that rule exists, you'll keep going back. So say it to yourself honestly. I'm allowed to grow. I'm allowed to change. I'm allowed to become successful. And don't just say it. Feel it, like a release, like you're removing a limitation. And when that happens, something shifts. You keep moving forward, and suddenly you notice the new version of you starts feeling normal. You don't go back anymore. You react differently. You think differently. And one day you catch yourself thinking, this is just who I am now. And that's a quiet but powerful moment, because that's when the fear disappears, not because you fought it, but because it no longer feels scary to be you. If this resonated with you, write in the comments, I allow myself to change, and make sure to subscribe, because we're going even deeper next. And yes, watch this again. Not as motivation, but as a reset, because this kind of shift happens in layers. And remember, you're not losing yourself. You're becoming more. And that's where your next level is, because anything is possible.